Welcome back to Week 11 Start Sits. We think we got a good batch for you guys here today. Last week turned out to be a bit of a mixed bag. I think we hit on 5 of the Start Sits, which honestly isn't terrible. One of the things that we try to do when we do this is we try to give you guys, not the obvious. Because we know that if we tell you to start somebody like Matthew Stafford, odds are there's a chance you might. If you're starting Patrick Mahomes, we tell you to start Patrick Mahomes, you're probably going to. If we tell you to start Jamar Chase or sit Jamar Chase, you're probably going to start him anyway. So we want to put people out there that we think have a chance of outperforming or underperforming based off of where they were taking or where they're ranked right now. So with that said, I'll jump into the quarterbacks here. Our start this week is Jameis Winston, which I think most of you are probably not starting him quite yet. He's going up against a Saints defense that is the 4th worst in yards given up this season. And I'm expecting him to just continue what he's doing, which is just slinging the ball to Cedric Tillman and David Njoku all game. I think he's going to be up for a good game. He might give up 8 interceptions, but as long as he's throwing those touchdowns and scoring points, what's the difference? What's 5 interceptions or so, right? Then we're going to be sitting, which this guy has moved into a lot of starting lineups this year, Sam Darnold. He's going up against the Titans this week. He's already been regressing a bit back to the Sam Darnold that we've known the last few years. And the Titans have allowed the least amount of yards, by far, than any other team by almost 300 yards. So I'm expecting them to shut him down. Obviously, there's always, Justin Jefferson's on that team, and he's always going to be someone that's probably going to perform no matter what we do. But if you have been starting him, I would be pivoting to another quarterback this week.
Yeah, and especially if you're in a dynasty format, I'm trying to sell Darnold everywhere I can with not much luck. He's kind of been on a steady decline, I think, for the past 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
But as far as running backs go, our start this week is going to be J.K. Dobbins versus the Bengals. The Bengals defense has just been really kneecapping the entire team. I feel like the Bengals could be 8-2 right now if they didn't have one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yep.
And the Chargers, on the other hand, they've been really solid. They're not incredibly fun to watch, but they control games, particularly with the rushing game. And I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a field day against the Bengals and maybe a touchdown as well. As for our sit, we're going to be sitting Najee Harris versus the Steelers. Or not versus the Steelers, versus the Ravens. Najee Harris is on the Steelers. The Ravens, while they have a horrible secondary, they're actually the second best rush defense in the league right now. And I think this is going to be a pretty good game. It's probably the game of the week, honestly. I think it might be high scoring, but I don't think that's going to be on the ground, at least not for the Steelers.
Yeah, pretty much sit Najee Harris, and if you haven't started Russell Wilson, I'd probably be looking to start him this week. Now would be the time to pull him out after the last 3 good games he's had. Our next start is the wide receiver 2 for the Lions, Jameson Williams. He's started off really hot this year. We all know he got suspended, and he just came back this past week. But now Sammy Laporta is going to be out. Not that he has had an immense impact on that offense this year. He's actually been kind of a disappointment. But they're going up against the Jags, and the Jags have the 3rd worst pass defense in the league in terms of yards allowed. I'm expecting Jared Goff not to throw 5 interceptions this week, but he's probably going to be throwing quite a few touchdowns, and I'm going to be taking that wide receiver 2 and putting him in a flex spot this week. And then probably the most controversial call that we have on our list, we're sitting CeeDee Lamb. And this is what I mean by what I said at the beginning of the video is you're probably going to start him anyway, but if there's a week that you want to move someone else in his place, it's probably this week against the Texans. Their pass defense is pretty solid, and Cooper Rush is trash. And so is Trey Lance. So they have no quarterback. CeeDee Lamb is going to be suffering the rest of the year. I know it sucks with the playoffs coming up in fantasy in a week or two. It's really just not optimal in any situation. But if there was a week to be benching him to look for more upside off of some of the wide receivers on the bench, it's going to be this one. Just to see if you can sneak in if you need a win or two to try and get into the playoffs against a defense that's pretty solid.
Yeah, just a bad team, bad QB versus good defense does not typically result in great fantasy production. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he'll come out and score 12 points, but for someone that you picked in the top 5, that's going to be a disappointing week.
Yep.
So, as far as tight ends go, this has continued to be one of the most difficult parts of the segment on a weekly basis, just because tight ends just predominantly suck. But we're going to be starting David Njoku versus the Saints. Again, the Saints are basically in like fire sale mode right now. They sold off most of their good assets. They're just not a very good or competitive team. We think Jameis Winston's going to sling the ball around this week, and I expect a heavy volume day for Njoku. As for sit, we're going to be benching Tucker Kraft versus the Bears. Jordan Love has not had the best couple of weeks recently. He's had he has great moments, but he's also had a couple of what I would call like Will Levis interception or turnover moments where he's just trying to do too much and it's not quite working. And against a very stingy Bears pass defense, I just don't think Kraft is going to be startable this week.
Yeah, he's someone that you're probably going to want to avoid. The Bears defense has been solid against the pass the majority of this. They've been solid across the board generally. Most of the season. They've only allowed 6 touchdowns in the air this year. And I'm not expecting that to change. So while I definitely wouldn't take anything on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to the Bears right now, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, I think you're best to just take your chances and avoid it. And as Sam said, Jordan Love's been kind of not living up to what we expected him to do this year. Granted, I know he's battling through a handful of injuries that he's been dealing with that are probably nagging him and impacting him, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's week 11. Take it or leave it. Use it or don't. We think these guys are going to perform or underperform compared to where they usually stand, depending where we put them. And we're looking forward to seeing how the results pan out. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.